Last week when I was planting potatoes in this bed, I was pulling some weeds out and I had a question in the comment section about what they were, and another person correctly identified it as chickweed. Now, in the film I didn't explain what I was doing in relation to that and why I was taking it out. So I'd like to take this little opportunity to talk to you about chickweed in particular, which is growing here beside me, why I grow it, how we use it, and also some of the other things that you can eat for greens outside of those traditional things like lettuce and cabbage, etc. So chickweed isn't something that I actually deliberately plant in my garden. It's something that volunteers every winter. It comes up in beds like this one, and as this one was, that have been left to sort of fallow for a period of time. Now, I don't rush to weed it out because all of my life I have learnt to value chickweed as food. The fresh green leaves, particularly nice young heads, are really tasty in salad. I really enjoy it, and it's also very nutritious. It has a history of being used in herbal medicine for skin complaints and also digestive issues. Go and research it if you want to know more about that. But as a food, I think it's really great, and the fact that it volunteers in winter is excellent. Now, I find here it mostly likes to grow in the greenhouse where it's warmer. In climates in Australia further north where it's warmer, and where I grew up, it grew outdoors in winter and was a regular. As a child, I first saw chickweed being used by some friends, that they were using it in a salad, and I tasted a little bit and said to myself, oh, this is really tasty. And I remember I went to my mother and said, oh, I want to eat some chickweed. It's really nice. And her response was, we don't need to eat that. We're not that poor. So she thought of it just as a weed that grows out there. And because she had been through periods of hardship, she's looked down on it, where she had eaten it, as a little bit of a thing that you only eat when you're really poor. I understand how she was thinking, but I don't think she was looking at it the right way, because in actual fact I think that the chickweed is probably more nutritious than the lettuce that she chose to eat. Now, in using chickweed, basically there is a point, as there was with this bed, where you need to use it for something else. You take it out, you plant. I've still got a little bit here that we can use and will be sufficient until we get other greens coming along. One thing though that's really important is that you actually learn correct identification of chickweed, because as I look at this here, amongst it there is some euphorbia growing, which is sometimes called petty spurge, and this is a very similar leaf, and it's not something that you actually want to eat. Now, you can pick it out very quickly by the fact that it has a white milk coming out of the stem, which chickweed doesn't. When you pick chickweed, it's clear, there is no milk comes out of it. So also the growth habit is quite different. Chickweed tends to be a vine. The euphorbias come up as a little bush, but they will often intergrow as they do here, and so when you're harvesting you do have to exercise some care, make sure you're harvesting the right thing. The other thing that can be mistaken for chickweed is scarlet pimpernel. Grows as a similar vine, has a leaf that looks very similar. I don't have any here that I can show you examples of. If it's in flower, it's easily distinguished by the colour of its flower, that it has a pink flower, whereas chickweed has a very small, insignificant white flower, and so if you've got the flowers you can tell. Actually, speaking of it, I do. Yes. Here, growing amongst it, is a little bit of Scarlet Pimpernel, not in flower, but just a little piece of it. And again, you see how it can intermingle means that you really do need to be quite clear and accurate with your identification. I think, however, that we have become way too narrow in the greens that we eat particularly. We tend to become focused on lettuces and the lettuce family. We use the brassica family, but then we only think of cabbage and kale currently as being the leafy greens. We of course have silver beets and spinaches, which tend to be cooked more, but we ignore a lot of other things that we could eat. And this was just one of those examples that produces so easily and without any effort on my part, that can be used as a green. Now, there's a couple of others I want to show you as well. This time of the year, of course, it's fairly short because it is winter, it's the middle of winter, and there's not as much growing around as there would be in summer. Now, it's not generally a weed as such, but it certainly can become one very easily, and that's nasturtiums. Now, it's often planted in gardens for its flowers, but both its flowers and its leaves are edible and are quite a pleasant inclusion in a salad. Samuel really likes a leaf or two of nasturtium with a tomato sandwich. Has a peppery flavour, but it's a productive green. Now, this is looking a little bit sad at the moment because we've had a couple of days of really heavy frost, and heavy frost will actually burn these leaves. So if you have it growing somewhere more protected, you'll get it through winter better. But here, it's really only the very heavy frost that troubles it, I find. It's been growing quite well until now through winter, and it's only been these couple of days of really cold, -1 or 2 mornings that have knocked it. But nasturtiums, think of it as a food rather than just a decorative plant. Now, here in the orchard I've found another weed which, well, is generally thought of as a weed, which is edible and we do use in salads as well. And of course that's dandelion, fairly well known, but not eaten that much in this country. And at the moment, of course, it's pretty low because of winter. There's not a lot of leaf, but at other times we do have some really good dandelion leaves around. Not only, of course, can the leaf be used as a salad green, but it does have medicinal uses again, very good for digestion. The root, you can dig that up, dry it and roast it and make a really nice coffee substitute, and something that also is beneficial for the body. Dandelion likes to grow in spots where it doesn't have as much grass competition. Don't confuse it with cat's ear, which grows quite readily here and grows in a bit poorer soils. Dandelion likes a little bit more nitrogen in the soil, and that's where it's growing here around the fruit tree where I have fertilised, or this particular one I've actually put out grass clippings around it. It's come up as a result of that, where there's more nutrition in the soil. So an indicator really that the soil is better here than in other locations. In my garden beds, I do tend to be fairly hard on dandelion and weed it out when it's quite small. The reason being is that the roots grow quite long, and then when you try and weed it when it's larger, the roots break and it still reshoots from the root that remains in the ground. So as it gets older, it becomes more difficult to remove. And even though you might leave some at times for food, it still is a little bit of a nuisance if you're trying to grow something else. I really find gardening and veggie gardening very much about what you're choosing to grow. It doesn't mean that the things that you're taking out that we consider weeds are necessarily bad things. They're still sometimes quite good for food. In my garden, actually, at certain times of the year in certain locations, potatoes are weeds to me, because where I have grown potatoes previously, there's some small ones left and they're volunteering, and it's not what I'm wanting to actually grow at that time. So I find myself pulling out potato plants, which might seem pretty silly. It's just the fact that I don't want them there at that particular time. Now, to distinguish dandelion from the cat's ear, you need to look for a couple of features. One, this is a dandelion here. Of course, the seed head that I just bumped is the real traditional dandelion seed head, and that's that it's a single stalk with a single flower or a single seed head, whereas cat's ear, which I can't give you an example of at this time of the year, branches and produces multiple flowers and multiple seed heads. The other element this cat's ear is growing here in the lawn is the leaf itself, and the dandelion tends to be a lot more jagged. It's also a smooth leaf. Cat's ear has less serrations, and it also is furry to feel. So smooth on the dandelion, furry on the cat's ear. And if you look at those couple of things, you'll very quickly learn to tell the difference between them. Of course, brassicas are a green that we know and that we grow, but we're used to eating cabbage and kale, as I mentioned. What I think we often forget is that broccoli, like this, has beautiful leaves. Look at them, lovely leaves, and they're very sweet and tasty to eat. They either cook or, look, they're soft enough when they're like this to even use in a salad. They're actually probably more tender than kale, sweeter than kale, which probably means they haven't got quite as much nutrition as kale, but a really nice green. If you've got it available, use it. You'll enjoy cauliflower greens. Broccoli, we use the heads and tend to look at that just as the component that we're going to eat, but every part of the plant is edible. Again, these leaves are really edible. However, a little bit stronger in flavour than the collie, more like eating kale, really. So in terms of choice, you know, if you're happy to eat kale, grow some broccoli, eat your leaves as well as the actual heads. Cauliflower, the same. So really what I want to leave you with is that there is a wide range of things that you can eat as greens. And you really should never be short. You really should have heaps like you see now available to you if you garden, or even if you understand your weeds. You should be able to find plenty of greens and never be without them.